Okay guys, well, finally doing this video. People have been asking me to do a, well, not really asking me to do a video, but asking me a lot about how I feel about this helmet. This is a standard Anovos Snowtrooper helmet after close to 3 years, one day till for me. Ordered it on January 20th, 2015. Showed up on January 19th, 2018. So, aside from that, there's a lot of things with this helmet that I have my issues with. I'll do this short and sweet for people that don't care about accuracy, don't care about all that jazz that I do. Purely from a display piece, I think it's fine. If you're just intending to have it on display in your room on a shelf somewhere, fine. As a costume piece, no. Which is unfortunate because this whole thing was, I guess intended to be a costume piece. Advertised as a costume piece. But regrettably does not function as a costume piece. Which will, the biggest reason here I can tell you right now is because of this cowl material that they chose to use. I'll just show you why right now. Here's the stand I had it on. Look at that. The helmet stands on its own because the material they chose for the cowl is a very stiff plastic. Now the place card for it says it's made of vinyl. I'm not a major expert on plastics, but this doesn't look much like a vinyl that I'm familiar with. And the thing is, you can't wear it as it is. I can't put it on my head. I mean, I could put it over my head. It sits up on my head, but you cannot wear it as it's supposed to be worn. So from that perspective, as a costumer myself for the past, 5 years, no, more than that. Yeah, almost close to 10 years actually. This is not good for costuming. And if you're looking to buy it for that, I'm sorry, I don't think this is going to work out for you unless you buy the kit form, which they do sell, and you make it yourself. So, moving on to the next part of this is that, from my perspective, being someone who studied the Snowtroopers for so many years, who has such passion for it, such intense desire for accuracy and all that jazz. Now, this helmet was not created 100% by Anovos. It was made from 3D scans of the archive helmet that they have. If you ever see all the costume exhibits that goes around the country or around the world, you'll see that one single Snowtrooper costume is always on display. This is the helmet from that specific costume. And the thing is about that helmet is warped, misshapen, has suffered a lot of what I consider mishandling over the years, and ultimately this is what happened. Anovos used that helmet as the basis, and they tried taking that 3D model and tried to, quote, fix it. It didn't really fix the issues, in my opinion. So that's why, for me, this is a really hard sell. The fact is that if you're looking for a movie representation of the Snowtrooper helmet, this is not really it, because aside from the construction issues, the cowl material, this helmet is not accurate to the movie Snowtrooper as seen. This is accurate to the helmet you see on the exhibit suit. So why I'm so torn about this helmet is that if as a collector, someone who is trying to maintain a very large Snowtrooper collection, this helmet is cool because I studied all that reference for so many years, and this is the helmet that we get. And it looks just like the helmet I've been, looking at through my, my years of research, because there wasn't a whole lot to look at before. People go go to these exhibits and they take pictures, and this is the helmet I always see in those pictures. So for me, it's cool to see that this is I'm seeing up close what is on that display, in a sense, if that makes any sense to people. But the fact is that this helmet is not a true representation of what you want to see on film. To move on to the next part of this, I'm going to cover the details, the issues that I have with it. Really, on the whole, as I mentioned before, this is an accurate replica of the one in the exhibit costume, and this is why it looks so off, it looks so wonky to people. It looks too not like what people want it to be. One of the first critiques I always see people say is, "Oh, the dome is too tall." That's false. I think it's more of a photography issue. That people see it in the pictures, and wherever the depth of it is, or wherever the photography used, people will look at it, and it might look like it's tall, like it's too bulbous or whatever. But honestly, it's not. It's right where it needs to be. It's like I said. There's one thing about the helmet I think it's not an issue really. It's the dome as far as overall shape and design. So I want to knock it out right here because that's just how it is. Of course, I'm not saying it's not suffered over the years. Like I said, the helmet that it's based off of was, I believe mishandled, and it suffered for it. If you look at those pictures of that helmet I'm talking about, you'll see how nasty warped it is. Like over here on the right hand side on the actual helmet is actually more folded inwards. It just looks like it's not even flared out. It just doesn't look good. And this one, like I said, when they took that 3D model, they corrected for it. They tried to make it symmetrical. They tried to take the most heinous, egregious warping that's present, and they tried to undo that in a sense. I think the only thing that the majority of the helmet looks like it's been altered slightly, but the eyes for the most part look like it hasn't been touched. However, they added these little grooves. I'll bring it up here. You can see in the shadow, those little grooves right here, right there, they have them on both sides. So you can see, where the light, it's hard to see on this side, but you can see on this side, right there. Now, what they did for that is, I would have to assume, when building these things, that it was meant for this return edge to fit inside here, and this was extended over here, and then just cover all that up and fit there in one coherent helmet. The problem is those don't actually exist on the real helmets. They're not an actual detail. They shouldn't be there at all to begin with. And this comes down to my issue with the whole project, because I hate to say it, I had a little more inside information than most people will ever get. Running the first Blizzard Force attachment, I was approached actually I think it was the end of 2014, when they actually were prepping to announce the whole entire Snowtrooper product. And I got wind of how things were being operated, how it was being done pretty much. And I was excited. I was like, this is awesome. Because, Snowtroopers and the costuming, the high-end replica world is non-existent. This is literally the very first high-end replica Snowtrooper helmet product that's licensed, and I was ecstatic. But as things progressed, things were not exactly going as I felt they should have. How overall the project was being, managed, I guess. I don't know. I don't have the minutia of the team and the people that are working on it, but all I know is that things happen. The original product was supposed to be based off of a fan-made one that's well known if you're in the costuming world with Star Wars. And this one was ultimately the end result of whatever fallout that happened between that original maker and the company. And they said, okay, we're going to switch to our 3D scan assets that we got from the archives. And this is where I think Anovos had, I guess, what I would consider like an identity crisis, in that they didn't know exactly how they wanted to have this helmet made. I could be wrong, but the thing is that there's no foundational helmets out there that would make me believe that this was developed as good as it could have been. Because look at all the products that Anovos has, between, you know, the original trilogy, Rogue One, Force Awakens, and The Last Jedi. You know, the helmets that they have largely have foundational helmets to build off from. And that the Stormtrooper helmets are a good example of this, because you have to really go out of your way to get a helmet that's not sourced from an original screencast or original helmet in any way. You have to actually go out of your way to do that, I think, because they're so commonplace that it's like anyone can get one now. Not like it was, you know, 10, 15 years ago, where it was like underground market. You had to know someone who knew someone. Completely different from today. So Anovos had the Stormtrooper helmets to work off of. The TIE helmets that they have are not from the original trilogy. They're from a new film, but they're not original trilogy. They come from the screen-used helmet assets from that. So they had that helmet to work off to make the TIE helmet and the AT-AT pilot. Now, as far as like the other helmets, like for the Force Awakens, I know for a fact that the Kylo Ren helmet they had was from the same STL files that the former, now, you know, non-existent prop shop had too. So I'm hard pressed to believe otherwise that they aren't getting the same kind of 3D files from the actual production to make these replica helmets for their business.
6 up right up here.
So all that way coming into play here, the whole reason I'm explaining all this is because
helmets were
I really believe this is the first helmet that they actually had to produce nearly 100% from scratch. They had the 3D scan data for sure, but ultimately they had to clean it up and fix it to make it into something they felt, I guess, worthy enough of making or putting out there. Part of me wants, you know, my really hard critiquing, you know, angry side wants to say that they didn't bother really looking at much reference photos, because I can tell you for a fact that, you know, like the grooves on the side of the helmet, for example, I can tell you for a fact that if they paid attention to reference and knew how it was actually constructed on the real helmets, they would never have done that. I say this because, bring it in closer now, right here where it meets on the screen use helmets, you have that return edge that goes all the way outside right here, the little lip right here you see on the forward part of it. It's on there, then when you get to the closer, right where the eyes meet, they cut off that entire return edge, so it's completely flat. And what that does is sit flat against the side of the eye. And it negates that entire need for what this little groove is for. Because the groove is designed for the inside return edge of this part of the helmet to sit inside there, as I explained. So if they had actually paid attention to reference, they would have seen that. Maybe they did see it and just, you know, decided to ignore it. I don't know what was going through their head. But that's, to me, a flaw in research and analysis. They did not analyze this properly, and I think this is why there's some shortcomings. Now, to get back to the other issue I mentioned earlier about the cowl, this material right here is so stiff. It's not a vinyl. Maybe it's a vinyl. I don't know the technical, you know, properties of it, but for costuming, this is not good. This is no good. If I can't wear it out of the box, what's the point? I don't want to have to rip it out. I don't have to take it all off and redo it. I'm not paying X amount of money to tear apart a helmet to fix myself. Now, granted, you know, being a fellow first, especially with the Stormtrooper kits and all the First Order Stormtrooper kits, people will modify them. They'll fix them to how they like their helmets to be, or how they like the armor to be. That's a given. However, I think that having such a significant portion of the helmet, which is the cowl here, to be in this stiff material, to be so stiff, and I just don't understand it. This is the material they chose to go with, and it's like a very thin film plastic, and it's not good. It's not good in my opinion. So the other thing you'll notice here, which is not really an issue to me so much, it's not really an issue of the actual sculpt per se, but you see right here these little lines, little shadow lines right here in the brow. Now, I don't think the brow was probably not, I believe it wasn't trimmed properly. So you see like this little, like right here where on the vacuum form, when it's cut off from the vacuum form sheet of plastic, it wasn't trimmed properly. And you see that little line. If you ever worked on a vacuum form piece of plastic before, you know, you always have the lines that show you where you're supposed to cut, where you're supposed to, you know, put things together, etc. Now, one common thing I always see on these helmets so far from everyone else, I don't see it too much on mine personally, but usually this side of the brow is thinner than on this outside part. So thin from the left, thicker on the right, and it's kind of obvious, which comes to my opinion that it was just a construction issue. It wasn't constructed right. Now, some other issues I've seen in this helmet as far as construction has been, there's one guy whose the eyes right here, like it looks like it was canted over. So like this part right here, the face shield, was like sitting underneath the brow, where this side was angled downwards, and so it made the whole thing look crooked. I'm not sure how you got that through QC, but could just be me. I don't know. I think it's odd. And I think the most egregious issue with this helmet right now is the back of it. I'm going to show you this right here if you haven't already seen it. This is the most common issue in all of them, especially on mine. So, you know, those of you who are watching right now, people are like, oh, what's the issue? Oh my god, what is that? The boxes on the rear of the helmet are not, it's canted, it's crooked. Addition to that is that there's so much space between the brow and the first box. That's not supposed to be that far apart. That's at least an inch or so, give or take. Now, I'm fine. I mean, I can look past the actual shape of the boxes, the inside of it. It's not shaped correctly. It's not accurate. But from a costuming perspective, someone who's in the 501st, we've rejected people's helmets or costumes for having the same issue. Ultimately, this is not, I mean, if you're looking for 501st approval, I hope you go a different helmet. I hate to say that. You have to go with a different helmet. The other thing too was, I was, you know, they have the kit version, and I was looking to see if, you know, to make a point, if I can buy the kit, build it myself, make it, you know, maybe see if this issue is not necessarily a design flaw, but it's a construction flaw. It'll be an expensive point to make, but it's something I'm interested to see if that's possible, because I know there's going to be a lot of people who buy these kits, the kit form of this helmet, sorry, and they want to know if it's worth their time, worth their effort. And I don't want to see someone that takes it out of the box, especially, I mean, if you can put it on your head, oh my god, if you can wear it as intended, you have a long neck, or some, you know, some miracle happened where that cowl was able to undo itself. Because frankly, that material is garbage for the purpose of costuming. Display piece, fine, whatever. I'll leave it alone. But I'm not going to mess with this helmet because, you know, as someone who manages a Snowtrooper specific collection, this is the first licensed replica Snowtrooper helmet out there. And I'm leaving this alone. As much issues as I have with it, I'm not going to mess with this helmet. The other part of it is whether you think it's worth your money. Because, I'm going to bring up some points here. I didn't pay the full $250 price for this one. I paid the first tier level like $180 or $150. I can't remember exactly what it was. After taxes, like $180 something. The current full retail price is $250, $249, plus shipping and all that. So you're looking at like around $300 for a helmet. This helmet. I do not think it's worth, based on the construction alone, I do not feel it's worth the $250. Because two things: the plastic is super thin. I swear they just want to use the thinnest plastic possible, thinnest ABS plastic possible. I understand they want to capture the details, and I understand that they want to make this as crisp looking as possible. You know, the first original trilogy Stormtrooper helmets are a good example of this. But for this kind of design of a helmet, it doesn't warrant, you know, thin ABS plastic. This stuff is too thin. It's wobbly. You want to pick it up? I can crunch into it pretty easily. I can do all these things with it. I mean, granted, it's supposed to sit there on your head or on your shelf and not move. So from that perspective, fine. But from a value, you know, perspective, I think this is not the value you're looking for. No pun intended. So if I was going to have honest critiques, aside from my personal, you know, beef with how the helmet ultimately played out, it's a good display piece as this, the completed version. But I do not think I would want to spend $250 on this specific replica, because there's alternative replicas out there if you're looking for accuracy, if you're looking for, you know, an idealized or a helmet that's more representative of how it's supposed to be in the movie. Which I hate to say, you know, this is, like I said, from my perspective, this is good as a helmet for display, and, you know, if you're looking for a replica of the exhibit suit, not for the film version, because you have about 40 years of time that happened between then. And I say this is a big issue because, you know, there's at least two other helmets I've seen, you know, on auction. One in 2012 and one this past year. Both were in amazing condition considering their age. The one that just, you know, got sold to RS Props in the UK, they got an unfinished production-made helmet. It was just the plastic parts, nothing else. Not even the cap on the top of the helmet. And you know, fortunately, you know, that helmet was a beautiful condition, perfect shape, and they're going to be taking that and making molds from. I'm excited because I want to get a, I mean, I'm hoping to eventually get a copy of that helmet. And if you're looking for accuracy, that's going to be the first real screen, you know, production cast Snowtrooper helmet available. So again, there's a lot of issues here. I don't think it's worth $250 because, you know, thin ABS. I want to show you here the inside. Now, see all that right there, all that white tape? That's what they use to hold the cowl in. And you ask yourself, why would you use this material? Why would you use tape to do that? Now, I have my own theory, because this was explained to me some years ago, you know, when I was first talking to the Anovos rep about all this, was that they intended to do these things such that, you know, some things weren't permanent, that, you know, whoever, you know, wants to buy these helmets and modify them for costuming, they can modify them easily. And I can understand that, and that's why I feel this cowl was taped in place, as I just showed you, to be removed. I'm not going to try and remove it, as I explained already. I'm not sure how this is attached exactly. I don't know if that's glued down or if that's just taped down, but it looks like it's glued down to me. This is how tight it is. But when I mentioned trying to put a helmet on, that tape will lift off on the inside, and it just doesn't, it's not conducive to wearing. So that's pretty much all of it. I mean, one thing that did I mean, I think I agree with the material wise, is that the lenses there are pretty spot on. People were complaining about, I mean, mine is constructed pretty nice and clean and smooth and tight. Some people said they had ripples or bends in them. Mine's on there pretty tight. I mean, they use like that for the screen use helmets. They use like a thin film, you know, like the stuff they use, the film gels or light gels they put over lights in theaters. That's what they use to make the lenses for the helmets. Now I brought my main trooping helmet as a side-by-side, just to show like a size comparison. This is a side-by-side. Now what I have on the left is a Laws version helmet from 2009, 2008ish, and you can see size-wise they're almost, you know, they're almost about the same. The sands are off, but you can see overall they're about the same in terms of scale. Now I do have the new helmet of the Anovos, unfinished still. Let me see if I can grab that really quick for you. Take this off. Now, when I show you the boxes, I think when I was talking about the boxes in the back of the helmet being wrong, this is how they're supposed to look, pretty much like that. See how they're placed? Better light. See how like it goes in and squares in like a squarish pyramid? That's how it's supposed to look on the screen. That's how it looks on the screen use helmets. Indented like that. But you see that spacing right here in the top? All the way down, straight. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. So there's the newest Anovos helmet right there next to it, so you can see how it's supposed to look. Now, one thing for sure is that, you know, as access to having the assets, and you know, especially seeing that unfinished helmet from the prop store this last year, we have greater reference of how the face shield is shaped. As you can see on Dan Law's helmet, it's there, but it's not sticking out very far. And that's honestly one of the key features of the helmet that gives the helmet cowl that shape. Or as you see side by side right here, dust right there. If you look from the side profile, it sticks out, and you'll see when you look underneath the helmet. See that snout up here, that nose sticks up right up here? That sticks out way out there. And that's accurate. That's how the screen use helmets were sculpted. So, I'm going to close out this video. I'm just going to point out one last thing I had an issue with. The insert here on the left is representing the original prototype helmet that they, well, prototype, because that was the original fan-made helmet that they were going to use. I won't name the name here, but I'm just going to let you know that was the original helmet product that they were going to put out. As you can see, side by side, this helmet is completely different from this helmet, the final product. But, you know, I was told they already printed out all these guys, and then they said, screw it, we're just going to throw them in there anyway because they don't want to reprint them. This comes down to what I think was just, I guess, apathy towards it. They just don't care. They didn't care as much. I was told, oh, well, 99% of the population is not going to know any different. It's still a Snowtrooper helmet. Well, you go to Subway and order a Italian cold cut 6-inch on wheat. You go to cashier and you end up having a BLT on you know, multigrain. Yeah, it's still a sandwich to everyone else that's there, but it's not the sandwich you ordered. And I already have people complaining, you know, as I predicted, that what they see here is not the helmet that they thought they're getting. In some aspects, you know, because, you know, people don't have the same eye as me, or they don't have as much foundational knowledge of the helmets as I do. I'm not saying that I'm an expert on any of this, but there's people who are not as optically tuned to details and accuracy, and they'll observe what they see here as being a better product than here, where this is an amalgamation of screen accuracy and just non-adherence to reference photos. And this one is not accurate to the movie either. But if you're looking at it from a product standpoint, that does. I mean, I guess I can see how people see that helmet as being a better looking quality product than what they ended up with. So, and I sent a message to them in September. I said, hey, you know, because I was told that they got off this helmet and they switched off to the 3D files for the rest of the costume too. But when I said, hey, your listing for the full costume has the updated armor, updated helmet from the 3D scans, what you see here, but the standalone helmet accessory, as they call it, listing still showed this helmet. And I said, you gotta fix that, you gotta change it, because people might be upset that, you know, you send them a pretty much, I mean, it's not a box, but it's a box art of a completely different representation of the helmet, and you give them this. So in my eyes, I consider that a form of false advertisement. I mean, whatever, they want to do it like that, then that's them. But why I feel it was more apathy and this lack of care is because you look at all the other helmets they have, all the other products they put out. I think of the AT-AT helmet as a good example of this, or even the TIE helmet too, both helmets. They originally had all the helmet prototypes from the same person who makes this helmet up there as their prototype helmets, their listings. Then they started shipping them, and it's kind of weird because they didn't update the online graphics as far as I remember, but they updated the actual printout graphics to reflect the actual product. So the helmet you got that was on that printout was the actual helmet that you got. Now all the other helmets were like this, and they actually cared about, I guess, updating all the information. They got to the Snowtrooper helmet, which is, you know, 3 years old, one of the first products they announced, and they didn't give two shits about it. And they put out the flyer as you see, and then you got a different product. I mean, take it for what it is. I'm not happy from a certain point of view, for my own reasons. I'm happy that I have a replica of the tour exhibit helmet, but my thing is that I wish that they just, instead of using a 3D scan of a warped helmet, they said, oh, let's use reference photos, let's take what we have, the knowledge base that's out there, it's available, and make a helmet that looks like it does in the movie. You know, because it seems like other people are able to do it. Certainly artists are able to do it. I brought this over here too. This is the Hot Toys Snowtrooper helmet right here. And you can see, as small as it is, it captures a lot of the detail that you need for an accurate helmet. Even has a cap. Even the back, for the most part, it's pretty damn accurate. Even how they built it was pretty close to how the originals are. You can see inside there. Green film, the nose snout, and everything. I mean, Hot Toys did it at this scale. They're making a nice, idealized looking helmet. If you own these figures, you know what I'm talking about. It looks good. So, in my mind, why is it so difficult for them to do this in a full-scale format? And I certainly wish that it didn't come out like this from that perspective. Because from a costuming standpoint, they didn't use the same material for the cowl. It's supposed to be like how my Dan Law's helmet is, how I built it. This very, like a shiny vinyl. It's a fabric. So, there it is. There's the helmet. Judge it for what you will. Everyone has their own opinions. I'm an asshole to some people. I'm a nitpicker, elitist in some eyes. But at the end of the day, still people ask me what I think about it. And, I was rambling here forever. So, if you have any questions or comments, just ask away. You know where to find me. And I'll see if this thing can be rebuilt or built better than it has. And go from there.